has got his work cut out with Mike Tyson. Oh, the right hand! I doubt if he'll be able to get up from this.
This is Henry Tillman in 1984. 18 years old, Olympic gold medalist, the most decorated American heavyweight of his generation. And this, the young man looking at the floor in the corner of the photo, is the 17-year-old kid Tilman just beat for the second time in 8 weeks. His name was Mike Tyson. 6 years later, they would meet again. Tyson would not forget. In the spring of 1984, the best amateur heavyweight in the United States was supposed to be Mike Tyson. He was 17 years old. He had been training under the great Cus D'Amato in Catskill, New York since he was 13.
Michael Tyson, a wild, angry teenager from a nearby reform school.
He was already knocking out grown men in amateur tournaments. The boxing press had decided he was a once-in-a-generation prospect. Every boxing magazine in America wanted his face on the cover. The plan, as everyone in his camp understood it, was simple. Tyson would win the 1984 U.S. Olympic trials. He would go to Los Angeles, he would win gold. He would turn pro, he would become heavyweight champion of the world before he was old enough to drink. There was one problem with the plan. His name was Henry Tillman.
He was a gold medalist in the 23rd Olympiad in Los Angeles, California. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Henry Tillman.
Henry Tillman was a year older than Tyson. He had come up through the amateur ranks in Los Angeles, fighting out of the Hoover Street Boys Club. He was taller than Tyson. He had a longer reach. He was a smart, disciplined boxer who fought patiently and won on points. He was not, by any reasonable measure, the most exciting amateur in America, but he was very, very hard to hit. And in the spring of 1984, twice in 8 weeks, Henry Tillman did something that almost nobody outside of Cus D'Amato's gym believed was possible. The first fight was in June 1984 at the Olympic trials in Fort Worth, Texas. Tilman won a 5-round decision that the boxing press immediately disputed.
The decision.
Henry Tillman.
Cus D'Amato thought his fighter had been robbed. He demanded a rematch. He got it. 8 weeks later, in Las Vegas, the two amateurs met again in a box-off to decide who would represent the United States in the Olympic Games. Tilman won again. Same way, cleaner this time. Mike Tyson sat in the corner with his gloves off and cried.
Aggressiveness in amateur boxing is not rewarded with points.
2 months later, Henry Tillman walked into the sports arena in Los Angeles, beat the Canadian heavyweight Willie DeWitt in the gold medal final, and stood on top of the Olympic podium with the American flag rising behind him.
In my opinion, in history.
He was 24 years old. He had beaten the most feared amateur of his generation twice. He was the future of American heavyweight boxing. In Catskill, New York, the kid who didn't make the team was already in the gym again. You know what happened to Mike Tyson after he lost to Henry Tillman? He turned pro 3 months later. By 1986, at 20 years old, he was the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. By 1988, he was undisputed. By 1989, he had knocked out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds and was being called the most dangerous heavyweight who had ever lived.
He's not going to make it. It's all over.
What you may not know is what happened to Henry Tillman. Tilman turned pro the same year as Tyson. He didn't get the same contracts, he didn't get the same television fights. He fought in small venues against fighters most American boxing fans had never heard of. He won most of his fights. He lost a few. By 1990, Henry Tillman was a mid-card heavyweight contender on the fringe of the title picture. He was a former Olympic gold medalist with a respectable professional record, asking promoters for a real opportunity. What he got, what Don King offered him in the spring of 1990, was a fight against the man he had beaten twice in the amateurs. The man who, by this point, almost everyone in the sport was afraid to fight. The man who, 6 years later, had not forgotten what Henry Tillman had done to him in Las Vegas. June 16, 1990, Atlantic City, the Convention Hall. 2,000 miles from the gym in Las Vegas where Henry Tillman had made Mike Tyson cry, the two men walked into the ring as professionals for the first and only time in their lives.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Henry Tillman. Tillman. Mike Tyson.
Tilman was 29 years old. Tyson was 23. The Olympic gold medal that had separated them in 1984 didn't separate them anymore. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. That's how long it took for Mike Tyson to settle a 6-year-old score.
Surprise!
The footage doesn't show much in the way of strategy or technique. It shows a man who had spent 6 years carrying something inside him, finally getting to put it down. Henry Tillman went to the canvas. The referee waved it off.
And Tyson rushes to Tilman to help him up.
Mike Tyson didn't celebrate. Henry Tillman fought 8 more times in his professional career. He won most of them. He never got another title shot. By 1992, he was retired. What happened to him after boxing was harder to watch than what happened to him in the ring. In 2010, Henry Tillman was arrested in Los Angeles for second-degree murder. The case involved a shooting outside a home in South LA. Tilman, who was 60 years old by then, said he had fired in self-defense against a man who was threatening him. The trial lasted 2 weeks. He was acquitted. But the years between 1990 and 2010 had not been kind. The Olympic gold medalist, who had twice beaten Mike Tyson, had spent 2 decades drifting through the kind of difficulties that befall former athletes who don't get the contracts they deserved. Money problems, health problems, the slow, quiet erosion of a name nobody outside of boxing remembered anymore. Henry Tillman died in 2021 at the age of 60. The boxing world barely noticed. In the long history of American boxing, Mike Tyson lost to fewer than 10 amateur opponents. Henry Tillman was the only one who beat him twice. For 2 strange months in the spring of 1984, the future of the heavyweight division was not Mike Tyson. It was a quiet kid from Brooklyn who fought patiently, won on points, and stood on the Olympic podium while everyone else watched. Tyson won the next round of the story. He won every round of the story after that, for the rest of his life. But for those 2 months in 1984, and only those 2 months, Henry Tillman was the better fighter, and Mike Tyson never forgot it.